Hi, this is Angela at Those with Young, and this is my about 7th attempt to make a YouTube video to post tonight, and having a little bit of difficulty with that. I'm a little webcam challenged, I suppose. So my son is now helping me on his fancy super duper camera, and I'm hoping that we'll get this done. I got the little ones tucked in. They have a little tradition of hug and kiss and lick, so I've been hugged and kissed and licked all over my cheeks, and gonna try this again. So I wanted to just welcome you by camera and get to know you a little bit that way, and introduce myself to you a little bit that way, and just thank you for joining me on this journey at Those with Young as our pursuit of Christ as moms. We've started a new sermon series at our church this weekend that got me thinking that maybe there's a basic question we should answer together before we go too much further in our journey about Jesus. And that's just a simple question called, what is Christianity? What is a Christian? And it's a simple question, but I think you'll find in our culture today it has a very confusing mess of answers you could get. If you asked 50 people what a Christian was, you'd probably get 45 different answers because there's so much confusion. The early church, the term Christian began in Acts with the early church, and the literal meaning is little Christs. It was those who wanted to show that they were being conformed to the image of Jesus, and very literally they wanted to mirror his image to those around him and show Jesus to those who were around them. And it set them apart from the rest of the community, the rest of the world at that time, who may have feared and worshipped the same God that the Christians did, the God of the Hebrews, yet they had rejected Jesus Christ as the Messiah. So those that had chosen to accept that he was the Messiah and believe in him began to go by the word Christian, and it set them apart. And in today's culture, I almost find that in order for someone to really understand what I believe, I feel like I almost need a new term besides Christian to be able to explain to people, because that word has become so confusing. So often when people ask me about my religious views, I say I'm a Christ follower. It's the same thing. It means the same thing, but it has a less generic meaning. I don't want to be viewed as someone who just treats Christianity like it goes with apple pie and baseball, all Americans do it, or like it's the opposite of being a Muslim. I don't want it to be just viewed as someone who goes to church twice a year and claims a belief in God, but really doesn't understand anything about what Jesus has done for me, because my relationship with Christ goes so much further and so much deeper than that. So that's just kind of my personal testimony and what I believe about that. Now, one of the things I wanted us to do is just talk about what that term Christian means. In Acts 11, it says that the disciples were first called Christians at Antioch. And so really it was the disciples who were disciples, and then they accepted the term Christian. And so really they were disciples first. So a Christian, biblically, is a disciple. And that term hasn't changed. It biblically means the same thing today that it meant all those years ago. But it gets confusing because there's so many religions and denominations and sects and even cults that have sprung out from the early church and that have a form of the same doctrine, but they also call themselves Christians. Even today, Baptists, Lutherans, Catholics, Mormons, they all call themselves Christians, but they do very different things with who Jesus Christ is. And so how can we all say we are all Christians if we do something very different with Jesus, if we don't believe the same about him and who he is and how we follow him? It leaves some concern and some things we need to really sort out and define in our heads. So this week we're going to look at verses about what it means to be a disciple. So if you can't be a Christian and not be a disciple, what is a disciple? What does it mean to follow Jesus? What does it mean to be an imitator of him and conform to his image? So those are the verses we're going to dig into this week, and I'm glad to have you join us. I hope you'll comment and post and help us interact in some dialogue here, and I hope you have a great week in God's Word.